our culture, which is interesting because the 12 steps came from our culture, but our culture, medically, we assign, we believe in the germ theory, right? We identify what the problem is and we treat it. We don't do prevention. Culturally, we don't do prevention, and we don't do holistic treatment. So when it comes to medical, the reason why the 12 steps are not heavily endorsed by the medical community is because the 12 steps are emotional and spiritual. Well, we've taken the spiritual aspect completely out of the medical field. We've done that for every illness. It's been proven that when somebody works on their spiritual condition, their chances of getting better for cancer, diabetes, any chronic illness are better, right? We know that stress, anxiety, depression is compounded by not being spiritually and emotionally fit.
If you want to tie it to physiological, the higher cortisol levels are in your body,
Absolutely.
the less likely you are to recover from any illness.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
right? I mean, we have the studies of ACEs, right, where it's been proven that when you experience certain categories of adverse childhood experiences, you are more prone and you will develop these chronic illnesses, right? But I'm saying all of that to say that when we're treating, again, substance use disorders, we focus on treating the symptoms, treating the physical part, which is the craving and the dependence, and sometimes the mental part, and we do it through some therapy, but even therapy we haven't been really good at. I got into the field at the beginning because I was not getting good therapy. I went to therapy for 8 years and I got worse before I ended up getting arrested and going to treatment. Because therapy has, for the most part, been very behavioral. It's changing, and I'm grateful for that, right? But we've looked at human beings, especially in our culture, as human doers. So we look at behaviors. Substance use, we look at it as a behavioral problem. It is not. I don't believe that any problem is behavioral, actually, because our behaviors are always symptoms of where we are internally, emotionally, spiritually, even mentally, psychologically. Our behaviors, right? Even if they're driven by schizophrenia or bipolar or anxiety or manic depression, right? Our behaviors are a byproduct of an internal condition. So fixing behaviors doesn't really do anything. It doesn't heal the person. It doesn't provide holistic healing. So when we're treating throughout for the most part, we're treating substance use just behaviorally, and we're treating the cravings with MAT. Or with, and there is a place for it. Absolutely. Right. The problem is when we are telling somebody that they can go on a medication long-term for maintenance and that they're in recovery.
Medication
for an
such
internal
as?
condition. Such as methadone, Suboxone. Suboxone is not as harmful as methadone. It does have the naltrexone on it. And I'll build on it. Any mind-altering substance, okay? And the reason being that because we are dealing with a condition that requires growth, emotional and spiritual growth. Let's emotional and spiritual go hand in hand. But let's just take it more to the emotional because, for most people, we can buy more into the emotional than the spiritual, right? Our emotions come from where? They come from our upbringing, right? We have nurture and nature is both, right? We have genes, genetics, and then we have our upbringing, right? And we live in a world that is traumatic by design, right? Trauma helps us grow. The problem is when we don't process it, or we repress it, or we cope with it in unhealthy ways. So emotionally, we're not okay. To do emotional work, it requires us to connect with our true selves, to do the shadow work, to go back and to feel the feelings, to feel the anger, to feel the sadness, to feel those deep resentments that I've had.
You need to feel them.
I need to feel them.
So you can do
I need to go
something about it.
back. I need to look at my story. I need to look at my parents' story. I need to look at their parents' story. We are human beings trying to evolve emotionally and spiritually. MAT doesn't let me process.